has the file acceleration sector changed? You know, what's going on with it today in today's cloud-based world? Of course, in previous times, companies moving files between two remote data centers, they could control, you know, either side of the pipe. Now a company is dealing with the cloud. They can't control what Amazon is going to be doing.
Right.
How does that affect, you know, the file acceleration or file transfer picture in today's world?
So I will separate that question out into depending on whether you are doing the private cloud or the public cloud, right?
Right.
So obviously in the public cloud scenario, you have to be asymmetric. You cannot expect that whatever equipment you buy locally, its mirror image will sit in the cloud. So Amazon is not going to go and deploy your equipment in their data center.
Right.
So inherently, when you deal with the public cloud, it becomes more about how do you, on one side, on the enterprise side, on the end user side, how can you optimize the experience without requiring any help from Amazon?
Right.
So that's how it works. Whereas if you look more at the private cloud side, still the traditional LAN acceleration, traditional two-sided proxy architecture still matter, okay, in that kind of environment. So again, it depends on where you're going, which kind of technology you adopt, which cloud provider you adopt. All this will change, and I will kind of preempt you just a little bit, but ultimately we'll have to look to the cloud providers, whether it's the public or private cloud providers, to provide us endpoints that we can connect to for optimization purposes. Okay, so that's where I believe things are going. So you may see actually a Citrix Cloud Bridge sitting alongside a NetApp in some data center at a public cloud provider. I can see that, and then we would be at the other end, providing the caching services.
Right. Cedric, what's your sense about how file acceleration or file transfer is changing in today's world, in this cloud-based world? What sort of current changes are going on?
Well, I'm living it, so we are, as a user, when you want to be mobile, you want to be able to share your file and exchange this data from wherever you are with the device that you have in your hands. I think we are seeing a lot of demand there, but at the same time, we want to secure this type of transaction. So there's a lot of solutions that are built around that. Citrix ShareFile is one that I looked at very closely with the partnership at NetApp, because we can keep the data on premise and still provide this cloud-based access to file.
Give me a little more, if you would, about what is ShareFile? It's the Citrix NetApp alliance.
Well, no,
what exactly does that do?
Yeah, Citrix ShareFile is almost a Dropbox, but for the enterprise. So it includes a lot of security, a lot of tracking, monitoring capabilities natively. Where it ties up the story with NetApp is because you can have your on-premise storage residing on ShareFile, accessible through ShareFile, but residing on-premise on NetApp in your data center. So you can use Snapmail, all the things that we mentioned before, natively with us.
You mean it's the kind of thing where two people could be working on one CAD file in different remote locations and then updating it constantly? Is it that kind of a thing, or is it a separate idea from that?
No, it's more about file sharing. So you can basically work on the same document. Yeah, I'm not going through the CAD application because that's a very specific use case. But sharing a PowerPoint, for example, preparing for a presentation, you are part of different companies. You can securely work on the same content, even if it's under NDA and so on.
Carl, what's your sense of how file acceleration is changing in today's world as the cloud really takes over? How is that changing file transfer and acceleration?
Well, so certainly, building upon Cedric's point, there's more sharing of data, and there's a desire to have the ability to share data whenever, wherever, from whatever device. So if you're out and about, I want to be able to share something from my mobile phone that I've stored in the cloud. I don't want to have to go home and access my PC to do that. So there's more sharing going on. The second thing is there's more data. That's not necessarily that's sort of happening in conjunction with the migration to the cloud, because we as marketers like to create ever more complex video files and PowerPoint files, and there's larger files that have to be shared. in addition to manufacturing types of data and enterprise design services are just getting more and more complex. So there's more data to be shared. There's more sharing going on. At the same time, going to the cloud and storing things in the cloud raises the issue of security. And so how do I secure that data? And do I really trust my sensitive enterprise data to be shared or stored at some service provider, and what are they exactly going to do with it? And this is back to the relationship that Citrix has with NetApp for the ShareFile solution. It gives enterprises the ability to have the best of both worlds. They can give the employees anywhere access to the data, but yet at the same time, all the sensitive data is maintained in their own data center, but yet to the employee it looks like a cloud-based solution.
Is that through encryption, or what is the security component of that?
Well, the security component is it's twofold. So there's certainly a secured connection from the enterprise data center out to the client device or the client application. Absolutely a secure tunnel. But at the same time, there's also we're giving the ability to the enterprise to retain the data that's being shared in their data center, as opposed to storing the data at a cloud provider such as Amazon Web Services or Windows Azure.
Okay. It's more of the data is stored locally as opposed to remotely.
Right.
Okay. Jim, what's your sense? How is this today's modern cloud-based world changing file acceleration and file transfer? I know it's not the way it used to be.
Yeah. The more things change, a lot of times the more things stay the same. We did our first set of research on cloud storage. We published it about 3 years ago, and the number 1 and 2 concerns of CIOs at that time were security and availability. And nothing's changed. It seems like every time you get that security thing back in its cage, we run into a heartbleed or some other,
Nirvonics went away, for example.
And then every time we seem to get the availability thing in the box, we run into an outage or a failure of a service provider or something like that. So, however, with 90% of the data in the world having been created in the last 2 years, and that ratio is increasing. You've got to be able to use these cloud services and tools to keep up with that. And so we see the big enterprises even, but very much more in the medium market, organizations realizing that they have to use public cloud for some kind of component, be it archive, disaster recovery, or even hotter tiers of data. And to the point of caching, caching is a really great tool because you can achieve a huge amount of acceleration, and thinking that your data set is local on your machine by only caching a relatively small percentage of the total data set. So that's why that's a really important tool in this whole business of how do I deal with fast access, employee productivity, and all of those things while I'm also dealing with the latency incurred in attaching to multiple locations. So these are the right guys. They know the tools to get this stuff done.